Welcome back to Let's Make a Game. In this video, I would like to continue talking about tactical combat. More specifically, in the last video, I showed you a program which generates a small group of characters. In this video, I'm going to look at the code for that program. So as you can see, we have 4 passages: initialize, initial generation, balance warband, display warband. All 4 of them do what you might expect from the title. Initialize sets up the values of the variables that we need. Initial generation generates the stats for the characters. Balance warband then looks at the value of those characters and adjusts their stats until it's within the desired range. And then when that is done, we display them in display warband. So initialize, let's go through the variables. We have combat_min and combat_max. We have activation_min and activation_max. These are the ranges for the 2 main stats that characters have, combat and activation. We have hero_max equal to 4. That is the number of heroes. Why is it called hero_max, as in maximum, rather than hero_num or something like that? Well, because in future, when I add specialists like archers and rogues and magicians, they might not appear, or you might not get the maximum number. At the moment, it always generates exactly 4, but it may become a maximum in the future. We have hero_activation and hero_combat. These are arrays that keep track of the activation and combat scores. Then we have warband_low and warband_high. These are the ranges of the total value of the warband, which we will consider acceptable. And then we have warband_total, which starts at 0. It's going to go up as we generate characters. And once it's within this range, then we'll know that we've got an acceptable set of characters. There's just the normal note about temporary variables, and we go to initial generation. We have a for loop. As you can see, this is very short and fairly simple. The relevant slot of hero_activation becomes a random number between activation_min and activation_max. Similar thing happens with the combat score, and then we add to warband_total the activation times the combat. That's how we assess the value of the characters. And then once we've done that for every character, we go to balance warband. So we have 3 possibilities. Warband total is less than warband low. If that's the case, we do this. Warband total is greater than warband high, in which case we do this. If neither of those are the case, that's the simplest result. That means the warband's total value is within acceptable range, as the note says, and we go to display the warband. If it's too low, we choose a character at random. We reduce warband_total by the value of that character, because what we're going to do is change that character's stats and then add their new stats to warband total. So we take away their old value, and at the end of the code, we're going to add their new value. There are 2 things we might do, and there's a 50% chance of each. We set their combat to some random number between their current combat and the maximum value. Because remember, this is the case where the total is too low, so we're trying to bump up a hero. Or we increase their activation. We set it to a random number between their current activation and the maximum. Now note that in both cases that might not increase their value, because the lowest possible value is their current value. Well, why would we do that? Well, we do that because their current value might already be at the maximum, and if that's the case, trying to make it bigger would put it out of the desired range. So we have to have that possibility, unfortunately, of having this not increase the value. But either way, we then increase the warband total by their new value, and because we don't know whether we're now in the acceptable range, we include balance warband. In other words, we go back to the top. Now, if it's too high, we do something very, very similar. It's just that we're reducing a character rather than increasing them. So reduce the total by their current value, and then either set their combat to something random between the minimum and their current value, or set their activation to something between the minimum and the current value, and then increase the total by their new value and go back and see if we're within range. And then the last thing we do is display warband. But unfortunately, I seem to have run out of time, so I will talk about displaying the warband in the next video. I will leave it there for now. I hope that was useful or interesting to at least some of you, and I hope you will tune in next time.